The inaugural SoCal Bikefest was produced by the husband and wife team of Paul and Jackie Picard, and they've earned a lot of respect and admiration for pushing forward with an event when lots of people in their position would go the safe route and just cash in their chips. Planning and executing an event of that magnitude at a time when most events were being canceled, postponed, put in limbo, or scaled back with extremely silly restrictions made the SoCal Bikefest far more significant than just a fun event. It was representative of the values and principles that have always been prevalent within the traditional American motorcycle community. And a big part of those values is giving back to your community, supporting those who you respect, and raising money for those who are less fortunate than yourselves. Which is why our first stop before the Bike Fest was at the Indian dealership of Riverside, where Rusty and Frankie Loyal, who plays Hank on Minds MC, will have a pre-event meet and greet with all the participants of the Wounded Warriors Project Run so that we can raise money for some disabled and injured veterans while riding to the event. In fact, here's a quick clip of Rusty and Frankie working together on the series.
How was the ride?
Too long and too hot.
Damn. I thought Rusty absolutely nailed that scene. So as his manager, I submitted him for an Emmy. But we all know those award shows are political, so we'll probably get snubbed. I've known Rusty long enough that I can joke with him about the amount of dialogue that he had on Sons of Anarchy or Minds MC, because Rusty was well known around the world for his talent as a custom builder, designer, musician, and skills as an elite motorcyclist long before he ever appeared on Sons of Anarchy. And I can tell you, as someone who's been a television producer for over 20 years, that even for one line like that, on a show that successful, that the casting director would receive at least 2,500 resumes and headshots put out over a breakdown or had an open call. And many would be from talented actors with good agents. I bring that up because if you ever get the opportunity to meet people like Rusty or Frankie and see how humble they are for the amount of success they've had, it's rare. Special thanks to Indian's GM for the Riverside dealership, John Baroni, his wife Darlene, and the parts and services boss Zidane for treating us like family while we were there. It's highly appropriate at a Wounded Warriors Project Run to point out this gentleman, who's nicknamed Iron Man, that didn't acquire that name because he's such a fan of Robert Downey Jr.'s character in the Marvel movie. You see, Iron Man is a veteran of the U.S. Army with a record of 14 years of distinguished service. And he's called Iron Man because he has so much titanium in his body. And of course he's got challenges. Yet, he doesn't complain. He doesn't look at himself as a victim. In fact, Iron Man and another veteran that we met through the SoCal Bikefest, who is a ranger, who also has some challenges from faithfully serving his country, donate their time in helping other veterans. And so Rusty and I are trying to help them. And that's the way it's supposed to work. There's the role model right there. A motorcycle enthusiast from the Inland Empire. As always, whenever Rusty leads a run, he has a safety briefing in conjunction with the road captains or escorts. Riding motorcycles can be very dangerous, and it is dangerous. I mean, Rusty has so many friends that ride who have unfortunately gone down that he's actually attended 2 funerals on the same day. And since almost none of us will ever give up riding, it can be extremely beneficial when given the opportunity to listen to those that have a few more miles under them and a few more years staying on 2 wheels, like Rusty or these road captains. And thanks to Ron Austin for the prayer for a safe ride and a successful SoCal Bikefest. You rarely find an atheist in a foxhole or that rides a motorcycle.
Jesus' mighty name we pray.
Amen.
So let's get to the festival. After a fantastic scenic ride through the hills of Riverside, we arrived at the inaugural SoCal Bikefest. After thanking Paul and Jackie for having us, their team member Brittany gave us a quick tour, and then we took a few minutes to appreciate the insanity of the Brigade FMX stunt team from Phoenix. I'm not sure Carey Hart knew what he had started when he performed the very first backflip, which those of you on the wrong side of 40 remember clearly. Rusty's rarely impressed, and yet he was impressed with these guys. So respect to the maniacs from Phoenix. While Rusty and Frankie were doing their signings, I headed out to check out the vendors. This is Pikey, the Army Ranger veteran that I referenced earlier. He's Iron Man's partner in a very cool cigar, coffee, and accessories company called Throat Punch. I've become friends with Iron Man and Pikey, and I've met both their families. And since they know Rusty's track record with veterans issues, we've offered our assistance with anything we can do to follow their lead to keep homeless veterans off the street. Pikey unfortunately went down on his bike recently, but from what his texts tell me, he's healing up and he'll be back in action very soon. We want to thank Christy, Brittany, and Nicole for being outstanding towards us, and Danny Mesner, who booked Rusty for this event. And of course, Paul and Jackie. And to congratulate them on already being locked in for SoCal Bikefest number 2. I'm sure they made Rod Woody Woodruff proud. Take care and ride safe.